I was sharing my screen completely. Let me try again. Sharing my screen.
There we go. Now I started to share.
Okay.
So,
all right. So move it ahead to the speaker or presenter's slide, which I think is slide number 3.
yeah, I think it's probably going to be better if you share on you. Hold on. Here we go. Are you seeing full screen right now, or you're still seeing presenter view, right?
Yeah, that's okay. You can just go to number 3. It's fine. Or
Okay.
yeah, there you go.
Let's just go 3. Okay.
Yeah. So we have, this is a collaborative effort, which is what I really like, you know. So we've got some of the experts in the field. We're talking about tools for, you know, the coronavirus, tools for presentation, tools for resume writing, tools for interviewing, tools for professional development. So we've got Rick Connelly, who's the CEO and co-founder of Gravity IT Resources, Scott Singer, who's the president of Insider Career Strategies, Claudia Keppinger, who she's a marketing project manager for the American Welding Society. She's in the marketing space. She's won an Emmy. I think that's so awesome. Rick Regera is an enterprise and executive agile coach and trainer. Regina, she's also a coach and a trainer, and she's a Wonder Woman, servant leader. And then myself, product strategist, project manager, consultant, trainer. So we're all here to present our ideas, help everybody out with professional development tools for uncertain times. So the way we're going to do this is, if you go to the next slide, Rick, we have an agenda. We have about 10 minutes each for each of these topics: creating a personal brand, resume writing, certifications worth having, because there's so many. So Regina and myself, we're going to try to, you know, boil that down. Networking and building relationships, that'll be Rick. And then Scott's going to do updating your LinkedIn profile, interviewing, and then he's going to talk about resources that will help complement your job search if you find yourself in that boat. It's good information to have, even if you're not. You're one of the fortunate ones. And then we'll have audience questions and wrap up. So it's important to write your questions in the chat. You might even want to preface it with questions, although it should be pretty obvious. And I think what we'll do is, Rick and I were talking about it earlier. It's possible that the speakers, when they're finished, they could monitor the chat too, in case you had any questions on their particular presentation. But we're going to hold the questions to the end, so to make sure that we've gotten through all the content, unless a question comes up and it feels appropriate. So we're kind of go with the flow, but that's what we were thinking. So we're going to kick it off with. Yes, I'm sorry, Rick.
In just a second. So these topics, yes, they're only 10 minutes, okay? But think about it as they're just a taste, right? We're giving you a flavor of it. So as you find more and more interest in diving deeper, we're gonna have these sessions on a weekly basis where we can actually dive deeper into interviewing, dive deeper into resumes. Anything that you find of a lot that you really wanna dive deeper into, we'll go ahead and work that out for future sessions. Keep tuned.
Yep, that's a very good point. Yep. So this is just a taste. We're going to see which ones will be full topics, but we'll do a whole hour or an hour and a half. Today's session is from 6 to 7:30. All right, so we're going to kick it off with Ms. Keppinger. So Claudia, do you want to share your screen? Do you want me to, are you comfortable with doing that? Do you want me to pull up mine? Or
yeah, I can share mine.
Sure.
Let me just see.
Hi, Claudia.
Hi. Oh, I don't think I see my.
At the bottom, there should be like a share screen green button. No?
Yeah, that's what I clicked, but I don't see my screen with my presentation. So maybe you might have to do it.
Okay. So I'm just going to do, I'm just going to share my screen, and then I'm going to pull.
Sorry, I had it pulled up already, but.
And then I'll just pull up your presentation. So everybody see personal branding?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So you tell me when to advance.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So personal branding obviously is there's a lot to learn for personal branding, and it's ever evolving because we are evolving as professionals, just like corporate brands evolve all the time, and their branding, although the messaging and the actual overall mission and all of that stays somewhat consistent throughout time. personal branding needs to evolve with times. So yeah, go over to the next one. Thank you. So what is a personal brand statement? And again, this is very high level, and there are some sources that I have listed on the bottom of the slides for a lot more information and for some really engaging podcasts and things. So I will be giving you homework. Listen to the podcast and read the resources at the bottom. So what is an effective personal brand statement? This is sort of your elevator speech, or this is something that kind of gives somebody a really good understanding of who you are and what you do. So for it to be effective, it consists of 3 components. It needs to state what you do, meaning your skills, your credentials, you know, really technically what you do, who you do it for, meaning your audience, what audience do you serve, and how do you do it? Why? What's your unique selling proposition? What sets you apart from somebody else that may have the same skills, same credentials, and serve the same audience? So these are the components to have an effective personal brand statement. And if we can move up to the 3rd slide, thank you. So here are some examples of personal and corporate brand statements or taglines that utilize those components and you know, really are, they touch on all 3. So for example, there's a business coach who against all odds built a successful business from the ground up. So this person, his or her brand statement is business owner and coach helping budding entrepreneurs realize their dreams by building resilience in the face of adversity. So it clearly states to you that this is a person who went through adversity and became a successful business owner. So that's what they do. Who they help or what their audience is new entrepreneurs that are just starting out to build their business. And what sets this person apart from everyone else? Well, they're relatable. They have faced some sort of adversity. So anyone in that same boat is going to look at this person as somebody who's uniquely qualified to help them. And some corporate brand taglines, my former employer, their tagline used to be NBC6 Weather Team, certified most accurate 6 years in a row. I don't know if you watch NBC6, I'm sure that sounds familiar to you. So who they are is a news and weather station. Who they serve is anyone that watches news. And what's their unique selling proposition? Well, no other station in South Florida can get the certification, only one. So that's how they're qualified to say, or that's what sets them apart from all the others. And then Geico, of course, we all know 15 minutes or more could save you 15% on car insurance. So that also is a good example of how it touches on the three components of a good brand tagline or statement. So your personal and professional profiles are linked, of course. So what you do with your personal profile needs to match what your real and professional profiles are in real life. So what you see online needs to be who you are in the real world. So Connie, if we can go up. But beyond the brand statement, like Jeff Bezos said, branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And to me, this is sort of like that 4th component missing from the statement. It's not something that you would write as the statement, but it's something that does shape your brand as a whole in the background. It's not tangible, but it's your why, your mission, your passion, why you do what you do, what drives you. So that why, it's really what shapes your branding well before the brand statement. So here, there is, William Arruda is a branding expert, a personal branding expert, and he's a Forbes contributor who, he says that there is a big correlation between personal branding and emotional intelligence. And we all know that emotional intelligence is, it's been important, but now more than ever, that's what employers are looking for, the soft skills, the emotional intelligence. And that's something that really can build equity for your brand in an intangible way, but in a really big way. So he says that before he works with any client on their personal statement, he has them go through a journey of introspection. So he wants this person to look within themselves, to learn about their emotions and what drives them and their passions, and also build their self-awareness. So what this does is not only does it give somebody this view of who they are, but then he takes it a step further and asks for a 360 feedback from the people around this person. So their coworkers, the family members, their supervisors, all also give feedback as to who this person is, and it creates a 360 identity for this person. So he feels that this is very important when building your brand, is knowing, having self-awareness and having empathy, or the knowledge and understanding of how you affect others. So there is a, yeah, one more second, because I wanted to bring up the, there's another link, there's a link to the article, but there's another link there to Adam Grant's Work Life podcast. And he's an organizational psychologist. He has amazing podcasts. And in this particular episode, Your Hidden Personality, he goes through this introspective exercise, and a lot of corporations do this with their teams, this 360 exercise. So it highlights some leaders and how they've used it. And I think that you would find that very useful as well if you listen to it. And then another part of emotional intelligence is recognizing the people that are doing things that are contributing to team success that may not be the high visibility people. These are people who are doing things, intangible things, that are all contributing to success. And as a leader, being able to not only recognize this in other people, but having the self-awareness to actually get better at this yourself is also something that's going to give your brand, it's going to build your brand and give your brand equity in the long run. So Adam Grant says that if you think of somebody you admire, a supervisor, a mentor, a colleague, chances are that they share some qualities, and chances are that one of those qualities is humility. And he says that humility is expressed through 3 key actions. One is acknowledge own limitations and areas for improvement. And what this means is successful people are not afraid to point out what areas of limitations they have. And what does this do? This creates trust. Because if these leaders are not afraid to acknowledge that, their team members are going to be not afraid to do the same, and they're going to follow suit, and it's going to create a bond, and it's going to create trust. And trust is something you want for your brand. Trust is something we all want to have more brands out there. So the brands that we admire, we trust. And this is the same way you're going to build trust for your brand. The second way, the second action, wait, one more second.
Sorry.
So the second way is they appreciate others' strengths, they give credit where it's due, and highlight the team's success over individual achievements. And again, this is, leaders are not afraid to put aside their individual achievement in order to, for the big picture, the greater good, and the goals of the team. So this is another way to create that trust and to build that trust. And finally, showing openness to learning from others and staying coachable. Again, this is an amazing episode, so I really encourage you to listen to it, because things like this kind of self-awareness and building on these skills, again, are going to be what's going to build your brand. But not only that, these are the people that are going to vouch for you. These are the people that when they see your profile, your social profile, they're going to be able to validate what you're putting out there. And now we can move up. Thank you, Connie. And the final piece of advice is authenticity, and it's more difficult than it sounds. We all have heard, especially lately, that brands need to be authentic. And yes, that is true. But according to Grant, authenticity is really not one thing. We all have different authentic selves. The way we are at happy hour is not the way we behave in a board meeting. It's not the way we behave at a family reunion. So we all have different authentic selves. And again, there are lots of resources and ways for you to sort of build your awareness for your authenticity and how to apply authenticity in the correct way. And I think, I have 1 minute left. So I just wanted to leave you with this list of resources, and there's lots and lots out there, but these are some good resources that that'll help you not only with your personal brand, but with emotional intelligence and the soft skills that I know a lot of employers are looking for nowadays.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, so branding is because you think this, I'm good at that. So how do you harness that into one statement? But it's a good exercise, and I think it's not necessarily the outcome, it's the process, it's the journey of doing that. So up next we have resume writing with Rick Connelly. So Rick, do you want to share your screen? Or do you want me to bring it up? Or here we go.
Okay, great. Thanks, Connie.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. I'm Rick Connelly with Gravity. Just a couple things before I get started. So if you're in transition, or if you find yourself in transition in the future, just couple tips. So one, exercise. It's a very stressful situation. So exercise, meditate, do whatever you need to do to really proactively manage the stress that comes with that. That's number one. Number two, stay positive. Number three, eat healthy. Number four, I would just say network. I'll give you a quick example. So I was referred yesterday to a developer who was laid off last week from Royal Caribbean, referred to him by a gentleman who we had placed at Bank United. They were talking. I got introduced to this developer. We have some remote development jobs based from one of our customers in Charlotte. This guy's a great fit, and he's got an interview on Monday. So just network. And the flip side of that, and it's kind of strange, is you're gonna have to be patient if you're looking and actively looking, because demand, there's not a lot of demand right now. So you're in kind of like this unique spot of trying to take action, trying to be purposeful, trying to get your resume out there, trying to network, and at the same time, just level setting yourself that there isn't a lot of demand right now in the immediate. So all the reason to stay positive and stay purposeful. So that brings me kind of to resume writing. So the first thing I just wanted to say about resume writing is it's kind of it's an ironic experience and exercise to go through, because you're trying to encapsulate your entire professional experience and represent it and sell it on a couple pieces of paper, right? And you're trying to list all of the things that you did and all the things that you're proud of and your entire journey. And I know for me, when I've done it, it's a very personal exercise. Writing your resume can be very emotional as you're kind of like looking back and reflecting on your history. So you're kind of going through that journey. And then we need to pivot for a second, because we also need to put ourselves in the shoes of the person that is probably going to be initially looking at your resume. Okay, so while this is something maybe that we've worked on, kind of building our resume, refining our resume for weeks and tweaking it and having friends look at it, the truth is, if you put yourself into the shoes of the person that's going to get that resume, I Googled this today, how long does somebody do an initial resume screen for when they're looking at a resume from a job applicant? And the answer is anywhere between 6 and 7 seconds, right? So it's really, really important that when you construct your resume, that, and I'll kind of get to the first bullet, that you keep it very clean, you keep it very concise. You know, the thing about resumes, you could ask 100 different people, hey, give me some advice on my resume. And the reality is that everybody's going to give you a bit of a different opinion about how to structure your resume, your font size, this, that. You're going to get 100 different opinions, right? So don't go crazy in your mind. But I just tried to outline, in my experience, and I look at probably 30 to 40 to 50 resumes every single day, the things that I look for. So number one is keep that resume, keep it very clean, keep it very concise. What that means to me is the resume is not a place for headshots, okay? You're trying to keep, you know, if you're trying to get somebody's attention in 6 to 7 seconds, you want it to be simple font, you want to have a lot of white space. You don't want it to be overloaded with text, which can be a challenge because, especially if you've been in the working world for 25 plus years, you have a large body of work that you're trying to represent. But and that's the kind of the whole purpose of trying to be concise. For me, when I look at a resume, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scan kind of the first half of that resume, and then what I like to do is I scroll down to the very bottom. And I look from the bottom of the resume, typically because people will start with their career journey at the bottom, you know, or whether it's page 2 or page 3, and I scan that resume from the beginning of their career to present day. And the reason I do that is I like to look at what kind of story is that telling me. I like to look at how long they've been at each company. I like to look at have they taken on increased levels of responsibility, right, every couple of years. I like to look for patterns. You know, where did they start? Did they start maybe in a kind of a technical field and then they've kind of moved into a technical PM? Did they start off as a business analyst and move into a PM role? But I like to get a quick story, a quick snapshot of who that person is. So my recommendation is put your most recent and relevant experience on the top of your resume. Generally, although I'm looking for that story, what I'm generally looking for is I'm looking for what have you done over the last 3 to 5 years, right? Because that's probably, although I'm looking for your story and your narrative, I'm looking for what you've done over the last 3 to 5 years. That's probably going to be more than likely what's most relevant, right, to the next opportunity. And there's always exceptions to that rule. The other thing, the other bullet is, you know, a lot of times, a lot of us were taught on your resume to talk about your objective in terms of what am I looking for, right? I'm looking for a role as a ABC kind of person. My recommendation is don't do that. Instead, do a quick summary at the top of the resume about how you can help, how you can bring value to that potential employer. Because now you're not really talking about what you want, you're talking about how you can help that employer, that hiring manager. And it's just kind of human nature. When people are reading things, they're looking and they're looking, okay, what can this guy or girl do for me to make my life easier or help kind of move projects through kind of the life cycle. My personal preference, my recommendation to people is always at the top of your resume, put your certifications, put your education. If there's any special training that you have, highlight that at the top, because once again, if you've got 6 or 7 seconds to make an impression, I think you want to try to get that at the top, and then obviously, you know, encourage people to use obviously your personal email and then your cell phone contact information. The other thing that you want to make sure you have on your resume is the core skill sets, I'll call it maybe technologies, the strengths that you have. I like to generally see those at the top of the resume because once again, I'm going to do a quick scan and my brain is going to be thin slicing very quickly to try to put a picture together of what this individual's kind of body of work and strengths are. The other thing is you've also got to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's reading that resume. So in the case of applicant tracking software, right, there's algorithms that are going to try to make a match between keywords in a job description and then keywords on your resume. So it's important that you'll want to try to highlight any of the key skill sets or strengths or technologies that you have to put them there, and then obviously also embed them throughout the body of your resume. The other thing is that, from a recruiter's perspective, when a recruiter goes to search a database, whether it's their internal database, whether it's Career Builder, Monster, Dice, wherever you put your resume, the recruiter is going to punch in keywords, okay? So they may punch in project manager, M365, infrastructure, South Florida, and they're obviously trying to find a project manager that's got an infrastructure profile / background that has worked on an M365 project. So the recruiter is going to punch in keywords, and then the algorithm in the job board is going to serve up resumes according to the relevance of what shows up on that resume. So once again, as you're putting your resume together, you want to be very thoughtful about obviously the projects and your body of work and your skills, but you want to try to be purposeful about the jobs that you're applying for, because that matching algorithm and the way recruiters search resumes is important to at least get you noticed. The other thing, the next bullet is on the resume. My strong encouragement is do not list every single task that you've done. Okay, I think, hiring managers, recruiters find that it doesn't add a lot of value, right? If you're a business analyst or a project manager, people know what you do, okay, for the most part. So I don't think what I encourage people to do is talk more about the projects, the programs that you've worked on. Put some specifics in there. If you worked on the migration of implementation of a ServiceNow project or whatever it was, put the details in there about that. Put in some details about the revenue size, about scope, was it global? And then most importantly, put in results, put in quantifiable things. If you're a Scrum Master, put in what you got the sprint velocities up to. Put in metrics, but put in very tangible, quantifiable things about what you got accomplished. If it was a process improvement, talk about what was the business impact and put in very specific numbers. That's going to get your resume noticed much more than just the checklist of I did this, I did this, I did that. That's not going to make you stand out. Next thing is every year this sinks a handful of people. Never, ever, ever lie about your education. Some people are tempted to. Some people finished maybe the majority of their degree, the majority of their credits, but they didn't graduate. Always be transparent. Don't be ashamed about that. Be very transparent about what your education is. It's generally not going to discredit you if you've got a good body of work from being considered for a job, in my opinion. I would also de-emphasize in your resume kind of adjectives. Once again, we're trying to keep this thing very concise. I would de-emphasize kind of fluffy adjectives, and I would use more action-oriented verbs about implemented, upgrade, things about what you did, the actions that you took to get things done. Clearly, the next bullet is when it comes to your resume, have other people take a look at it. Have them check the spelling, have them check the grammar. Is it clean? Is it sequential? You'd be surprised how many resumes we see with misspellings on it. You'd be surprised how many managers say, hey, you sent over this resume, it's got a misspelling on it. The person could be a cloud engineer with an AWS certification, enterprise experience, immediately discounted because it is a reflection of their lack of detail into something that is very, very important, which is your resume. Immediately discounts people. My other recommendation, this is a personal opinion, don't waste time or space on your resume putting in volunteer work, personal interests, personal hobbies. I mean, you can do it. For somebody who's been looking at resumes for 25 years, it's meaningless. And you quite honestly run the risk of a lot of people put in things that can be somewhat controversial at this stage of the application process. You don't want to put any roadblocks or barriers between you and the hiring manager. The other thing, getting down to the second to the last bullet, is perfectly normal and recommended to have multiple resumes to represent different jobs that you might be applying for, okay? So what I mean by that is maybe you're open to an individual contributor role, but you're also open to maybe a management role. Maybe you're open to being a PMO manager, but you're also open to being an individual contributor. Perfectly normal to tailor your resume to the job that you're applying for. Same thing in a lot of smaller companies. They're going to want somebody that can be kind of a hybrid project manager and business analyst, maybe a hybrid Scrum Master. At smaller companies, they're going to want somebody that can wear a lot of different hats. So once again, perfectly normal, tailor your resume to that. And then the other thing is the last thing I have on here is on your resume. I do think it's important to address if you've got any meaningful work gaps in your work experience, you just address it. And it could be something as simple as, hey, I worked at company ABC. I was there for a year. Company was sold to another company, and I had a 3-month gap on my resume, right? But put that in there so that does not become a turnoff, because there's every hiring manager has different preference. They have different preferences around certifications, not certifications. They also have different preferences around how quickly people leave jobs. Some people really don't care if you leave jobs every single year. Other hiring managers see you as a flight risk. So you want to be prepared that if there's a reasonable explanation, maybe the company went out of business, the company was sold, there was layoffs, you want to just put something in there so it doesn't become an obstacle. And that's all I got.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I got a lot out of that, and I'm sure there are lots of questions in the chat box. So thank you. I really appreciated that, Rick. So good. So moving on. Next up, resume writing. I'm sorry, certifications worth having with Regina and myself. So Regina, I'll have you start, and I believe Rick, you have the slide deck. I have that one as well. If you want me to pull it up.
Yeah, go ahead and share. That way I don't lose the bandwidth here for some reason.
Yeah. All right. So Regina, so just tell me when to advance.
Okay. Awesome. So the question that we get most often is, what are the recommended Agile certifications that are out there? What are the most recognized in the industry? Right? And which ones are the ones that are the most sought after when you're applying for a job? Now, guys, there's a ton of Agile certifications out there, but what we're going to share with you today in 5 minutes are the ones that are the most highly recommended by Agile coaches, Agile practitioners, and experts in the industry. But there's a ton of many others, and we've put some information out there also in the PDF that you can all do research on after. Sounds good? Okay, Rick, if you can move to the next slide, or Connie, please. Okay, so the Scrum Alliance is a very recognized organization that is global. I don't know how many of you have heard of that, but some of the original Agile certifications that are the most known come from the Scrum Alliance organization. As you can see, I'm sharing the Scrum framework. So who in the industry would like to get a Scrum Alliance certification? For example, folks that are looking for roles of product owners, folks that are looking for roles as Scrum Masters, project managers that are moving into a Scrum Master role, business owners that are moving into a product owner role, a team member, a developer, tester, you name it, a business analyst that is now a part of an Agile team. We highly recommend the basic certifications, the CSM, Certified Scrum Master certification from the Scrum Alliance, or the Certified Scrum Product Owner. Those are the basics that we would recommend from there. If you go on to the next slide, there's many others. So I'm sharing with you what a beginner would be learning as a certification, some of the more advanced roles and certifications from the Scrum Alliance. So there's a Scrum Master track that's more advanced, a product owner track, a developer track, and also a more professional track as well. So you guys could do research on these later, but the two most common ones that are filtered in resumes could be your CSM certifications, Certified Scrum Master and Certified Product Owner, just for beginners to start out with. Okay, next slide. Okay, so those are the basics. Now, for folks that are in leadership, for folks that work at the corporate enterprise level, that work at the portfolio, or that have program management experience, how do you scale Agile up to the enterprise? How do you apply Agile holistically to an entire corporation, from the team to the program to the portfolio level? This is where the multiple scaling Agile certifications that are out in the industry come into play. One of the many, and it's one of the most popular right now, is SAFe. I don't know how many of you have heard of SAFe, the Scaled Agile Framework. We're not going to get into the complexity of this picture, but this picture shows an entire enterprise, like I said before, from the roles at Agile best practices, roles at the team, program, portfolio, and enterprise level. The basic certifications that are SAFe related are Leading SAFe, SAFe Scrum Master, and SAFe Product Owner. These are definitely more advanced than the previous Scrum Alliance certifications that I shared before. So leaders, architect leaders, technology leaders, portfolio managers, program managers, anybody in any type of leadership position that is dealing with multiple teams and are delivery based, this is a very recommended certifications that are out there. On the next slide, there's many more. Okay, these are very focused and specialized. SAFe now is specializing in DevOps, in product management, in teams, release train engineers. These are very specialized. When you all are able to download this PDF, the basic certifications that you can start out with are Leading SAFe, SAFe Scrum Master, and SAFe Product Owner. And then you can focus on the more advanced as you guys grow in your knowledge. Okay. Next slide. Kanban is another sought after Agile certification. As you can see, this comes from the Kanban University. Okay. The basic classes that we recommend are Team Kanban Practitioner, Kanban System Design KMP1, Kanban System Improvement KMP2. So anybody who's a team member of a team that's using Kanban, the one-day class is very helpful. Anybody who's a project manager or a Scrum Master could take the KMP1, and then now when you move up more into the leadership and the program level, in a Kanban company, you can do the KMP2. So these are the ones, we've got more information in the PDF if you guys want to take a look at those. Forward. And then these are the next level of the Kanban certifications that are out there. Most importantly, I do want to state that these certifications are not just for technology, okay? These are also used in business process optimization. So it's no longer that Agile is just for development teams. We've got business Scrum teams, we've got marketing Scrum teams, HR Scrum teams. Kanban is widely used for any type of business processes, and SAFe is holistic. It works both on the business and on the technology side. So that's my 5 minutes. I think my 5 minutes are up, Connie. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions on the certification, please feel free to reach out to me, Regina Batista. Thank you so much.
Awesome, Regina. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many certifications, and just to touch on some stuff that you said, Regina, and then some stuff that Rick hit on. To me, a certification, it's not only just the certification, but it's the fact that you made a commitment, you followed through, you actually completed it. All of those things go into an individual when you're looking at an individual. So, but there's so many to pick from. It's like, how do you do it? How do you manage this maze? So you brought a lot of clarity to, individual versus the enterprise stuff and so on. So PMI has certifications also, as you know, the PMP being the biggest one. And that I look at essential certifications and then differentiators that kind of differentiate you. So I have a lot of people who ask me, should I get a PMP or should I get an Agile certification? Like it's an either or. And I don't think it's an either or. I think the PMP, for me anyway, in my experience from what I've done, because I've seen a lot of organizations that are using hybrid, some sort of hybrid Agile approach. So you still have project managers in organizations, unless they're doing a full, full Agile, either a scaled framework or Scrum, then you're still going to have project managers and you still have project management type activities. So to me, the PMP is kind of like the bedrock. It's the foundation. It teaches project, it's the umbrella. It covers kind of everything. And with the new release that's coming out in January, where they're looking at business, I always forget, people, process, and the business environment, they're incorporating more of the Agile concepts and the different development approaches. Because let's face it, when we're looking at a project, the first thing you have to decide is, what is our development approach, or what is our approach? Not necessarily development in terms of developers developing, but what is our approach to get the work of this project done? Do we use an Agile? Do we use a hybrid? What is going to be our approach? So the PMP kind of gives you that broad view. Same thing for the ACP. It gives you, rather than being specific about a specific thing, whether it's a Scrum or whatever, it gives you the generic, the umbrella for Agile. So I consider those essential. And then the things that differentiate you are other, there are other certifications that are not as popular as the PMP. And by the way, I have CAPM listed here. That would be for somebody who perhaps is new to this, and there may be some on the call who are new. Where you don't have the experience to get the PMP, you would start off with the CAPM to kind of get you going, again, to show that commitment. But we have the professional business analyst. That's really good for people who want to be product owners, because that's business analysis. The program management, it's hard to get, and not a lot of folks have it, but it differentiates you. Regina was talking about that, the enterprise level, that's really what a program is in some ways. So another differentiator to say, yeah, I've managed programs and I know how to do that. Portfolio management, risk management, schedule professional. These are all things that if you want to differentiate yourself from others, it could help. And I'll tell you, just from having I have the PGMP and the ACP, the learning experience is really worthwhile. I took the Kanban thing. I took the SAFE, I didn't do the certification, silly me. But I learned so much. I mean, we are in a world where it's all about learning. You constantly have to be on that curve. You have to, when people's talking about SAFE and they're talking about the train and this, you may not know exactly, you may not be able to remember, but you can follow the train of thought. Because if you're in an interview and they start talking about the train and whatever in SAFE, and you're just, you're kind of like deer in the headlights, that's not a good thing. So taking the classes are really good because you get exposed to other people and you really learn the stuff. Same thing with program management. I can tell you the programs that I managed were not according to the PMBOK rules or 2 PMI's rules. I learned what I should have been doing, and that's okay. So it's a learning process. So consider these, consider certifications, figure out what you want to specialize in or what you want, the road you want to go down, and then get the certifications accordingly, certainly the PMP, ACP, and then the Agile ones, and certainly some at enterprise, because every organization is now moving into the enterprise level of Agile. So those are really important too. Disciplined Agile, that's a new one that's come on the scene, and a lot of folks are taking that. I actually got certified in that as well at the very beginning level. There are lots of certifications. It's kind of a configurable approach to Agile, where you look at the project, the size of the project, and other factors, and then you figure out, okay, what's the best approach to do here? I think it's great. I like it. We'll see if it picks up any steam. But again, it's about being familiar. It's about knowing the lingo, being able to if you're in an interview situation, being able to at least walk down the path with somebody if it's mentioned. So that's it for me on certification. So let's see. Next up is Mr. Regera. Rick, you're up on networking and building relationships. You want to share your screen?
Sure. Hold on. You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yes. All right. Terrific. Wow. A lot of learning today. So Claudia's teaching me about my brand. Claudia, I need some help on my brand. So if you want to help me. And then Rick, you're telling me about my resume. I've got a 40-page resume, Rick, that you just told me that isn't going to work for me. So I'm going to have to update that. Connie and Regina, thank you very much for telling me all about my certifications and all the time that I need to, update my certifications. Thank you very much. There's a lot out there. But really, what's the answer, right? When anybody asks you, how do you get a job in today's market? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? It's who you know, right? It's who you know. And how many of you only wait for the opportunity to lose your job to finally start networking? Come on, raise your hand. How many of you guys wait for that last minute to say, oh, it's time now for me to make friends or for me to go out there and get to know other people in the industry? I've met so many people where they're engulfed in their current job and they don't take the time to go out. And we talked earlier about volunteering. Guess what? Volunteering is important. It's not just important for the knowledge that you get, but it's important for the people that you meet. So the PMI has a great volunteer organization, right? There's a lot of networking going on when we're meeting you guys at dinner meetings, when you're meeting you guys at some of the other events. Even now, ask yourself, are you networking right now? Are you taking the opportunity to look around, look for people you know, or even chat in the actual chat line? Are you doing that? Do you even have your video on? Right? So you have opportunities for network. You need to make the best of it. Okay. So I wanted to just walk you through a couple examples of some of the things that my name is Rick. Great, terrific. So, when you look at networking, you look at, the resumes and all that stuff, I think the networking part of it is really key to making sure that you get to the next step, right? So you look out there and you think about networking and you think about who knows how to network. Just because you have Bill Gates that, has a whole bunch of hits and they have a whole marketing team behind them, right? They have a whole bunch of salespeople behind some of these high, visible, but can you get to the next point of networking? That's why one of my first recommendations for network is please join some of these, entities. Toastmaster, that is a massive win. Who was it the other day? One of the billionaires out there that said that he actually has a whole bunch of certifications, a whole bunch of degrees, and the one that he puts in the back, who is it, Connie?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, I thought you meant. What certification do they have in the background is actually Toastmaster.
Oh,
so
Certified Toastmaster, CTM.
Yes, but out of all these certifications, they felt that was what made, I think it was Buffett. I think it was Buffett that actually said that was really what changed his life. Great role model to follow, guys. So make sure you're reaching out to one of these volunteer organizations. Now, I wanted to just touch on a few basic, areas that you might want to think about when you're networking. I have a pet peeve about people coming in late. So if you're going to meet with me, if you're going to get together, please do not be late to that gathering. So what does it say to me? Like, what am I thinking when someone's late? Person's lazy, might not have a good transportation. Are they really dependable? Can I really count on them? Their life might be a little too complex to come in early. Do they respect me? Here I am waiting for them. Do they respect my time? So there's a lot of things that you could already be on the negative just walking in. So please make sure you're following through with being on time. As you're there meeting people, right? Let me give you a situation. So here I am, excited. I was going to go to the Scrum Alliance and meet all the major coaches. I just became CEC certified Enterprise Coach, which it took me a long time to get. and I was going to meet one of the top coaches in the world. And they're all in this room. And there I was with my list. Hey, what about this question? I kept asking that person a whole bunch of different questions all around the room, just running around and asking questions. You know how many friends I made? None. All I was interested in is my needs. All I was interested in, hey, can I solve my problem? You want to build a relationship, you want to build a network, why don't you find out what the other person wants? Why don't you find out what the pain points are on their side, right? And it starts by asking basic questions, just basic questions. You see a conversation and they're talking about the food, don't jump into something else, mention something about the food. Okay, next simple item. Stop trying to sell yourself. I get so many people that come to me and want to talk to me, and all they're doing is trying to say how great they are, how awesome they are, and all this. And they use I like the whole time. There's no we in their vocabulary. Come on, it gets tiring, okay? So please make sure you're adding a bigger scope than just yourself, okay? Next part is passion. I don't know how many people I meet that you could see it in their face. They're excited about what they do. Anybody heard of the saying, motion causes emotion? I know Connie knows the answer to this, but I'm just curious, who else can answer that question? Motion causes emotion. Who says that? Anybody? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Who says motion causes emotion? Did anybody get it right, Connie? Tell me there's somebody that actually got that one. I'm going to wait here.
I did. I don't see it.
You don't see it? Motion causes emotion.
Yep, somebody got it.
All right, awesome.
People. Buddy Peacock. Yep. And Joan.
So what was it? What was it?
Exactly. Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. I know some of us like him. Some of us hate.
Also.
Okay, that's it. That's it. You don't get any more. Just one person. That's it. So yes, some people love him. Some people hate him. But I just want you to think about something. You meet somebody for the first time. And I want you to see your posture right now. I want you to notice your current posture. Is your current posture like this? Are you not feeling empowered? Is your body not open up to receive? This is a sign that I'm ready to receive information. How would you want to hire somebody that talks to you in this way? How do you think this person's feeling inside? So please take the time. And I think Rick mentioned earlier, exercise, right? That's really to get your body going, to have that high energy when you're having conversation. But be careful, don't go overboard, because I've seen somebody with so much energy that they kind of overshadow everything else, okay? One of the things that I use from building a relationship, it's a secret, and I don't want you to share it with anybody, okay? Please do not share this. When you're gonna go meet people, sometimes you have to mimic their behavior, their presence, right? If somebody's wired up and you're also a little bit wired up, you can kind of relate a little bit. So just be careful with having conversations, and then your persona, the way you're acting, is way beyond what they're showing you. And I know it sounds wrong. It's like, well, Rick, that's not being genuine. That's not being you. Yeah, it's true. You are sliding, but you also are relating to them. You're also trying to understand how they're feeling, and that's a perfect start to that. Okay, what's the next one? So passion, smile. Guys, this is so easy to do, and I've seen so many people not take that into account. All you have to do is when you enter a room, please smile so that you can have that presence of positivity, okay? Don't hijack the conversation, okay? So when you see and you're networking with somebody and you're working through that, some people, like me, are extroverts, okay? And I love to talk. And when I talk, it's hard to shut up, you know? But what I find is if you see a group and you're the only one speaking up, you really aren't networking properly. because you're not listening. You're not listening for cues. You're too busy chapping your mouth, okay? So please make sure you give, in fact, they say that that's a sign of a high-performing team, when everyone has an equal share to actually collaborate properly, okay? Make sure you're doing that. And the simple thing of following up, right? If you really want to network with somebody, you want to make sure you're following up and saying, hey, I'm here, I'm dependable, right? So the last part, which I think is probably the most important thing, it all is based on trust, right? When you network with somebody, you really want to feel like you can trust each other to talk. There's some 3 core elements of trust. There's competency, and I think a lot of people spend time in competency. Oh, I'm brilliant, I'm smart, I'm the smartest thing in the world. Yeah, look how smart I am. I know everything there is to know, you know. But then there's other very important factors that without that, I'm not going to hire you, okay? You got honesty and you got dependability, right? How honest are you? That's where vulnerability comes in. Anytime I interview somebody or anytime I work with somebody, if the sky is always blue, you're not going to get in. If everything you tell me it's all perfect, you're not going to be open with me. So showing that you have that honesty and you're able to open up to them and show them that, you know, hey, we overcame this and this is how we did that. That's very important. And then being able, of course, to be dependable, somebody that you can count on, that when something happens at 10 o'clock at night, who's going to be there for you? Yeah, that guy, okay? So these are some of the pointers that I wanted to give you from networking perspective. Just keep in mind that I've also seen an issue where people have gone overboard when it comes to networking. There's a science to it, and you only can have a certain amount of people that you can really interact with. There's no way that you can have 2,000 people on your LinkedIn Connect and really feel that that's your network. That is not your network, okay? Maybe that's your opportunity to market. Your network are people that you're close by, and they kind of complement what you're doing. You feel that trust. You have all those entities of competency, honesty, dependability. Okay, so build your network one person at a time. Thank you very much. Connie, it's up to you.
That was awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So next up we have Scott Singer, and he's going to talk about 3 items. He's going to talk about updating your LinkedIn profile, interviewing, and then he's going to talk about other resources to complement your job search. So Scott, he's the president of Inside Career Strategies. So, and I see you have it up already. Scott, so take it away. Are you unmuted, Scott?
Now I am.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Go me. If anybody, I'll put my email address here into the notes so that anybody that would like the presentation afterwards, I'll take care of that when I can. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. So, you know, I'm going to go at a little bit of a faster clip based on the number of presenters we have here. First of all, LinkedIn matters because it's not your resume. You need to think about it a little bit differently. It really is your billboard on the job market. It's an essential networking tool. And Rick's right. I mean, you know, not everybody on LinkedIn is your network, but that doesn't mean that the people who are on there can't become part of your network. So you need to really think about this. And this is really the key thing. Okay. When LinkedIn first came out, you know, us old guys will remember this. I mean, it was just basically a social network, and then, you know, you put in your, you know, you pasted your resume, and that was pretty much it. That's not what it is anymore. In the old days, recruiters used to go on Dice and Monster and Career Builder, and they still do. But LinkedIn is really where they're looking for talent now. This is where recruiters will look for what's called passive candidates. And if you haven't heard that term, a passive candidate means somebody who's not actively looking for a job. So, you know, there's always a perception that the person who's not looking tends to be better. I'm not sure I always agree with that, but, you know, there is a perception in the market of that. So, you know, think about this. You have to have a profile that's full, that's got to have a good headshot. You know, the more complete the profile is, the better. The more people are going to see that it's a real person behind the profile, and they're going to see that, you know, you are professional. You know, and I mentioned a good headshot. I mean, you may have really enjoyed your vacation on the Mexican Pacific coast, but the truth of the matter is that, you know, showing up in a picture in your bathing suit, holding up a mahi, is probably not going to be the best, most professional photo that you want to present. You want to show yourself in a professional light. And then, of course, with LinkedIn, the real power lies in the two-way communication. You do have the ability to reach out to people, and you know, it's a wonderful, amazing tool. And then, of course, grow your network. You know, yes, you're not going to be best friends with all 2,000 or 3,000 or 30,000 people on your network, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be aggressively growing it. If you have people that you meet, if you go to a PMI mixer and you see people and you get people's business cards, and they send you, and you send an invite to somebody that gave you their business card, it shows that you were paying attention, and it shows that you value the fact that you connected. And then, of course, take the time to become a power user. It's really worth it. Now, what I mean by a power user for LinkedIn is, LinkedIn's a complicated system. You know, there's a lot of elements of Boolean search and being able to, you know, to find people through the system, and as well as being able to, how to sort down a search. How do you find a subject matter expert? How do you promote yourself in an effective way? If you're a consultant and you need to always be looking for that next gig, you know, being a power user is absolutely essential. You can use it for prospecting. So let's get into the pieces of LinkedIn. So first of all, the very first thing that people see when they look at your profile, or even if you come on up on a search, is going to be your name, your photograph, and then your headline. Now, the headline appears next to your name on these searches, and you get 120 characters for that. Now, people don't usually use this as effectively as they can. You know, sometimes a person will just say, okay, software engineer at, you know, at Magic Leap. And that's fine. But, you know, the truth of the matter is, with 120 characters, there's a lot more you can do with it. So, you know, a format that I typically recommend to people, that if you want to be found, you know, make the recruiter's life easy. If you want to really quickly summarize who you are and what you can do, and you come up on their search, you know, having something about your position, about you, and any additional information, you know, in an efficient way is going to be helpful. So I have some examples here. You know, for example, IT solutions architect, systems designer, recent graduate of the academy. You can see there, it tells a little bit about the technical skills, the overview of where they want to be, and a little bit of extra something. Network design and management analytics lead, pursuing opportunities. You know, if you want, wondering if this person's going to be receptive to hearing from you, that's a, you know, if they say they're pursuing opportunities, it's going to be there. And then, of course, human resources business partner, employee relations, shows that person's specialty. And then, you know, I can't get into examples. This is huge, but you've got the summary piece. This is really a piece that I'm surprised how few people actually fill in. You know, when recruiters are searching through LinkedIn for talent, they're doing a lot of Boolean searches, you know, meaning they're putting in keywords and they're trying to see what terminology shows up. The summary is 2,000 characters of free money in your case. This is a chance for you to populate it with who you are, what's your value proposition, and several of the keywords that can help people find you. So 2,000 max. Now, I will say there's a caveat to this. What's happening is that LinkedIn is currently phasing everybody into a longer summary. I think they're almost done with that, but at the end of that, everybody should have 2,600 characters. So, you know, it's really a chance for you to really sell yourself. It's a high-level explanation of who you are, what you have to offer, some of your key accomplishments, what your skills are, and then a call to action. And what I mean by your call of action is, you know, if you'd like to reach me, you can contact me through LinkedIn or at my email, scott.singer@insidercs.com. You know, this is really a missed opportunity. If you don't put things into your summary, a lot of people aren't going to see them in the job description, because frankly, the summary shows up right after your name and your headline. And people want to see this. This is going to be a quick and efficient way for people to identify if it's worth reading. And I think Rick number one said initially he spent about 15 seconds looking at a resume. LinkedIn's no different. I used to be a recruiter, and when I was using LinkedIn to recruit, and I would do a campaign, you know, I'd get 300 names that would show up. You know, I don't have an hour to dedicate to each profile. I've got a few seconds to figure out if this person's worth reading, and the summary makes it worthwhile. So a few additional thoughts on LinkedIn. First of all, make sure you fill in every applicable field, okay? LinkedIn loves complete. The more complete you are, the more findable you are, the more appropriate it's going to be, and LinkedIn does reward you with higher search results when people are looking. So fill in all your positions. By the way, I'm going to give a caveat here, okay? Age discrimination is a very real thing. Once you start to get to be our age, you know, you don't want to go too far back in your recent, you know, in your work history. You know, the guideline that people usually say is over 40. That's when, according to federal law, it's age discrimination. My advice to you is, you know, go 15 years back. If you've got something really, really cool before that, then put it in. Like, I'll give you an example. Maybe you were the chief of staff to the Secretary of Defense. Okay, yes, it was a while ago, but it's a really killer job. But if, you know, if you are an engineer or a project manager who's got 20 years of project management experience, nobody cares about that summer job when you were delivering pizzas. It's just not relevant, and all it's going to do is show your age. Your education, any education you have, and by the way, didn't complete that degree, that's okay. Just put in coursework towards an associate's degree, coursework towards a bachelor's degree. It shows at least that you are taking the steps. Don't be ashamed of it. You know, certifications. Oh my God, you know, PMI, you guys love your certifications. I've never seen an organization that loves their letters more than PMI. But, you know, the thing is that those letters are what people are going to be looking for. And, you know, anybody who runs a PMO has their particular flavors that they love. You know, maybe the PMO loves the SAFE certification. Maybe they love the PMP, whatever. They're going to ask the recruiter to look for those, make sure it's in there. Languages, speak French, keep it in there. Portuguese, put it in there. Italian, Pig Latin, doesn't matter. If you speak it, put it in there. These are all skills, and you never know when it's going to show up. And by the way, let's talk languages. Let's also talk computer languages. Maybe 30 years ago, you used COBOL. Guess what? The federal government needs people to update the payroll systems. So, you know, if you've got those, put them in. You never know when people are going to look for them. You know, as I mentioned, LinkedIn really likes completeness. The more detailed the profile, the better. It makes you more searchable. And of course, I'm not going to belabor this. Make sure you include a picture, a good picture. Recruiters tend to be a little skeptical about profiles that don't have a picture. Either they think the person isn't a real person. You know, there's a perception that, you know, people make up fake profiles, which I guess sometimes happens. I don't know why you'd put the effort in. Or the other one is that if you aren't putting in a profile, you're not spending the time to really tend to it. So, you know, a picture does send that message. And by the way, you know what? Make yourself pretty. You know, make yourself look good, be a good picture, 3/4 headshot. And then, of course, grow your network strategically. And then if you are job hunting, you really, really, really should consider investing in premium. LinkedIn Premium, you all get the pitch, you all get the free month. LinkedIn Premium gives you a few different benefits that really make it worthwhile. And I could go into LinkedIn for an hour here, but, you know, I'm not going to. The bottom line is, you know, when I recommend to people that they are searching for a job, I usually recommend a 3-step approach. Step 1, you take your resume, you tweak it to the job description, and you apply online. Step 2, you go ahead and you find through LinkedIn the hiring manager or the best guess of the hiring manager. And then step 3, you send them a direct note letting them know, hey, I've applied online. I have all the qualifications you're looking for. Love to talk to you, available immediately, sincerely. And Premium enables you to do this. Having a premium account gives you a certain number of what's called in-mails, which are a number of notes that you can send to people you're not directly connected to on LinkedIn. It gives you better search capability. And LinkedIn actually rewards you because when recruiters do searches, the algorithms pull up paid subscribers higher than non-paid subscribers. I'm not saying it's going to push you to number 1, but I'm saying there is a difference. And then, of course, don't be shy. You can reach out to companies. You know what? You've always wanted to work at the Miami Herald. Find the PMO at the Miami Herald. Reach out to them. Introduce yourself. Hey, I'm on the market looking for opportunities. You know, can I buy you a cup of coffee and talk a little bit about opportunities there? So let's talk about marketing yourself. You know, as far as marketing, the first thing is you want to build your local network. You know, if you're a student, At school, you want to talk to staff and faculty, people that you may know in the community. You want to target recruitment firms, especially in this economy, where things are a little bit goofy. I mean, look, you could get into a whole hour-long discussion about how to work with a staffing agency, and I'm not going to get into the details there. What I will say is that if you're going to reach out to a staffing firm, just remember the relationship goes as far as if they've got an opportunity that would be a good fit for you. Otherwise, they're going to have a lot of other jobs and a lot of other candidates to talk to. But there are many recruitment firms that you can talk to who can, who may have ins and, could be a good opportunity for a consulting or a permanent job. And then, of course, using LinkedIn to reach out to recruiters, it doesn't hurt. So let's talk a little bit about interviews. As far as job interviews go, they can take place a variety of different ways. I'm sure this isn't news to you, but it can be by phone, it can be in person, or it can even be over the internet like we're doing now. And by the way, if companies are still operating, and most of them still are, the major ones, they are moving to Skype, Zoom, GoToMeeting interviews. So, and I'm going to get into a little bit more detail about how to deal with those. But, companies interview, try to think about the reasons why they want to do this. It's not because they're having fun. These are hiring managers who are being taken away from their day-to-day duties. In an interview, often it's taking time away that they're going to have to make up by working an hour later in the day. But it's important. And frankly, interviewing talent should be the most important job any manager does. But they're interviewing because they want to learn about who you are and what you can contribute. What's on paper may be appropriate, but it may not be. It may not all be there appropriately. They need to find employees who fit in with their culture. And, culture is one of those things that, it's an underrated factor. When you're dealing with culture, there's some companies that, for example, if everybody comes in and it's a 9-to-5 environment, and, the CEO insists that everybody leaves at 5 and they take an hour break for cafecitos at 2:00 in the afternoon, and you're more of an A-type, who would rather just work, sit in the cube, not socialize, that's probably not going to be the best fit. Likewise, if you're a cube hound, somebody who just rather sit in your cubicle, do emails, and, and would rather respond to and do work remotely, there's companies like that. There's companies that appreciate that. You want to find the ones at the right culture. And, companies need that, because the truth of the matter is that the best employee in the wrong fit is not going to succeed. It doesn't matter how good their skills are. If it's not the right culture, it's not going to work. And then, of course, companies invest time and money in training new employees. I've seen a lot of different numbers on this, but the figures that I've seen are anywhere from $10,000 on up just to get somebody into a seat. So, that doesn't include, on average, that includes recruiting costs. It involves the time to orient the person, train them. So there's a huge investment here. And then, of course, they want to make sure there's a successful hire, because you know what? Firing somebody is painful and expensive, not just for the company, but for the employee too. So the interview is really an opportunity for everyone to get to know each other, make sure it's a good fit, as well as for you to really shine. So let's get into some of the different types of interviews. First of all, there's behavioral. And for those who haven't heard of this terminology, it's a very big thing right now. Most companies are doing it. The structure of a behavioral interview is, tell me about a time when, and they'll throw a situation of adversity at you. They want to see how you've dealt with the difficult situation and how you came out of it. So tell me about a time when you had a coworker you didn't get along with. Tell me about a time when you had to make a difficult decision. Tell me about a time when you had a project that was due and you didn't have enough time. They want to see how you think, how you reason through the process, and how you would get to the solution. And then a technical interview, for example, if you were interviewing a project manager, you might get into the nitty-gritty about, tell me a little bit about how you would lay out a project plan. How would you do that? What are the pieces that you see in there? It's really making sure that the technical foundation below there is in place. A stress interview. Not everybody's heard of this, but in the old days, Procter & Gamble, the CPG company, they used to do stress interviews for their salespeople, where what they would do is they'd fly their sales reps candidates into Cincinnati, and they would basically put them in a room and scream at them. And the idea being that if they could handle that interview okay and they could deal with the difficulty, they would be able to get the job. I think there's a lot of companies that put people through stress interviews, but they don't mean to. There's bad interviewers out there. Shadowing. There are some companies that will actually let you spend a day in the department, seeing what's going on, talking to the people in the group. I've done one of those on the receiving end. It's a wonderful opportunity. And then, of course, group interviews. This is where you're sitting in a panel. You've got 3 to 5 people across from you. And that is a challenge because you've got to keep your head on a swivel. You want to talk to everybody. You want to make sure that you're addressing everyone, because the last thing you want to do is talk to 4 out of those 5 people, and then the 5th person feels snubbed. And next thing you know, it's a thumbs down in terms of approval. So, there's no easy answers here. As far as during an interview, just some few things to keep in mind. Be early. And when I say early, I mean a few minutes. Don't show up an hour early. You will piss off the recruiter. The recruiter will have to drop everything they're doing, and they'll, distract you from, you bothering the reception desk. So, show up 5 minutes early. If you show up to the office an hour early, sit in your car for that next 55 minutes, and then dress appropriately. Always dress appropriate. It's not even a question, and you want to do it appropriate to the company culture. And 99% of the interviews, that means that you wear a suit to the interview. Men, women wear a suit. The exception to that is that you're talking to the recruiter during the screen, and maybe you've heard that, hey, people at this company, I've heard everyone wears jeans. Ask the recruiter when they're scheduling. Say, hey, I want to be prepared. How should I dress for the interview? They'll tell you. I used to work at Motorola many years ago, and, a lot of engineers and, people that, with no fashion sense, they'd wear jeans and sneakers and t-shirts. And, that's fine if you're going to hang out, but, in the office, it is what it is. These are people that are working at their desk. And I saw on many occasions these interviewers go into these interviews wearing, as I said, jeans and a t-shirt, and knocking a candidate out of consideration because they were wearing a suit without a tie. It doesn't mean that it's a fair process. You just got to be prepared for it. And my father gave me great advice. He said, you can always dress down. You can't dress back up. Wear a suit and a tie. You can always take the tie off if they ask you to. And then have great questions prepared. You want to have questions that are about the company, about the position. They're thoughtful, they're forward thinking. And if you can't think of a good question, try this one. Tell me a little bit about what an average day in this job looks like. Why is this opportunity available? What is the growth potential in this position? At least show that you're paying attention. The one thing that will kill an interview faster than anything is even the greatest interview. They stop at the end. They say, do you have any questions for us? And a candidate says, no, I don't have anything. Make sure you have questions. Always have questions. Use your manners. You would be surprised how few people still say please and thank you, and how few people know how to eat lunch. If you go to a lunch interview, all right, I'm serious here, all right? If they take you out to lunch, don't order the spaghetti and meatballs, don't order the tuna fish sandwich with extra onions. Order something that you don't plan to eat, frankly, and that you can eat with a fork and knife if you do. The chances are you're going to be spending more time talking to the folks. It's not really about, shoving a hamburger into your mouth. So, use your etiquette, knife on the right, fork on the left. And then, of course, send a thank you note to everyone afterwards. And when I say everyone, I mean anybody who you touched during that day. And I mean everybody from the executive who popped their head into the interview to the reception person who scheduled you. You've got to make sure that you touch base with all of them, because what will happen is somebody will walk to somebody else and says, wow, I just got this great thank you note from this candidate. And the person will say, I didn't get one. That's a great way to show that you're not treating all the interviewers equally. And then, of course, don't be the first one to bring up salary. I know there's a lot of temptation here to talk about salary. Everybody wants to know, I don't want to waste my time, but do not be the one to bring up salary on the interview. Let the employer get to it. And quite frankly, your goal is to defer the salary discussion as long as possible. You want to sell yourself, because if you bring up salary first, or if you show too aggressive about it, it's going to come across that you are just focused on the money. And that's not the message you want to send. So a few tips for video interviewing. I thought this might be relevant in today's environment. You know, first of all, find a quiet place at your home to do the interview. I have a condo. I've got 2 chihuahuas and a wife, and I'm like locked in my wife's office. The chihuahuas are 2 rooms over because I don't need them barking here. And, you know, take the same advice for the interview. Find a quiet place. Test your technology. If you've got somebody that's going to do an interview with you with GoToMeeting and you've never used the system before, test it beforehand with somebody you know. Make sure that you can log in, have the software uploaded. If you're sick right now, do not interview. I don't care if you've got a cold. I don't care if your symptoms have nothing to do with COVID-19. Do not interview right now. It will get you ruled out faster than you can believe. It's just not something that, even though it's a video interview, people don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the risk. You know, it's also important to behave as you would during an in-person interview, meaning minimize the distractions, keep good eye contact. You know, Rick number 2 said, you know, make sure you're sitting a little bit forward, that you're engaged in the conversation. You know, this is important. Behave the same way. Be a few minutes early, dress professionally. I don't know if anyone saw the ABC newscaster the other day who did a morning broadcast. He was wearing a sport coat, a tie, a shirt, and shorts. And, you know, he was doing this at home and it flashed down and you could see his nice pasty legs. Don't do that. All right. The last thing you want is, you know, you have to get up, there's an emergency and everybody sees you wearing your clam diggers. It's not going to be a good look. And then of course, smile. It's hard. It's really hard to smile at this disembodied little green light that I've got here on my computer, but do it. Smile. It's going to matter. And then of course, ask the good questions. But this is also important, which is you need to make sure that you calibrate your expectations for the process. You know, this is the time when everybody's schedules are thrown to hell. You know, you don't know if the company is on their normal schedules. You don't know what's going to happen in terms of whether they're just getting things started. You know, a lot of companies don't like to hire people unless they've met them in person. So make sure you calibrate your expectations and ask the recruiter or the hiring manager, you know, what you're dealing with. And then, you know, as appropriate, the interview timelines may extend. The offer could be contingent upon an in-person interview, which means you might have a decision to make. Maybe the office is back in business and you decide, you know what, I'm willing to go ahead and I'm willing to take the chance with COVID and do an in-person interview. It might also mean that they say, you know what, we're not bringing anybody in until we've got the all clear. So, you know, just be aware of that and you want to be patient. And then, of course, express gratitude for making time to interview. Right now, where everybody is stressed beyond belief, especially HR, who, by the way, you know, they're spending time doing crisis management and, you know, wrangling cats and, you know, dealing with remote workforces. A little bit of empathy will go a very long way. So, you know, a few other things to look at in terms of the job search, some resources. CareerSource. There's CareerSource Broward. There's CareerSource Miami-Dade. This is the state agency that offers a lot of employment services. If you need career services, they are a phenomenal resource. They have a lot of great professionals on staff. PESA. Do you know what you're actually worth from a compensation standpoint? If you don't, this is the place to go. All right. PESA is a salary survey website, and what it does is it shows it gives you commercially validated salary data for your job in terms of geography, job title, duties. So check it out on PESA. When you go into salary negotiations, you'll be very grateful that you did. Google News. You know, right now with everything going on and you're talking to a company or you want to know more about them, Google News, you're going to learn. This is the place to do it. If there's, you know, you can even put in there hiring, who's hiring. It'll tell you, you know, some of the news stories that feature companies that are employing right now. Your LinkedIn feed. A lot of companies are using their LinkedIn feed in ways they never used to. Hey, you know, hey world, we are still hiring at company X. If you're interested, please email me at this address. Pay attention to it. The PMI Career Center. The PMI website has a robust career portal. Use it. If you're not familiar with it and you haven't registered on it, make sure you do. Staffing firms, as we talked about, they're great relationships to have. Just make sure that you're also, by the way, feeding them as well. So if a staffing firm has an opening and maybe you're not the right fit, who do you know? Who can you refer their way? Your college career center. Yes, most of us have graduated a long time ago. That doesn't mean that the career center isn't going to be helpful. If you went to FIU's career center may still be willing to help you on your job search because employed alumni are typically donors. So if they're happy with the university and they feel like the university's added value, there's a chance that that could work that way. And then, of course, the job boards, Monster, Career Builder, Indeed. And, there's always the question of whether or not you should upload your resume. And, I think if you've got nothing to lose, if you don't have an opportunity right now, if you're not working right now, absolutely get your resume on those job boards. If you are concerned that your employer might see that you're actively looking for a job, I recommend against it right now. Just, it's not generally a good thing to have your resume up there unless you're secure in your job. So, a couple of last things, just some last points here, kind of on the COVID thing. Is this really the time to look for a new job? Yes, it is. Business is still happening. It just looks different. So a few things to keep in mind. First of all, focus on the critical matters first. Your health matters, your family matters, and then your business in that order. If you aren't healthy, you can't work. If your family's not healthy, you're going to have some big issues. So really focus on getting yourself in good shape there first. And the other part of this is too, that if you're spending your time distracted and you're unemployed, and you're dealing with all these family matters, you're going to be a terrible job candidate, because the truth of the matter is you're going to be, not going to be able to focus on the job search in the way that you want to. Once those are taken care of, though, it's time to refocus on the job search. There are industries and job categories that are booming, and you're going to see, the public-facing retail for essential goods and services are very much there. Remote technologies. Citrix is doing great. Zoom is doing fantastic. Many of the software as a service companies are doing very well. But the other thing is too, and I don't want to necessarily discourage people from this. This might be the time to look at the gig economy. The idea that, guess what? You were looking for a permanent job, but you know what? You're not seeing any. Maybe this is the time to do some consulting work, take on some projects, see what else is out there. This is the time to be flexible. Right now, there are 30 million people that are out of work over the last month and a half. So it's going to be competitive. You need to be flexible. And of course, you'll need to calibrate your approach and your expectations. Of course, the nicer you can be, the more, the more helpful you can be, the friendlier you can be. People will remember that. And, a few last tips. Don't get sidetracked. It will get competitive. Be compassionate. The recruiter's job is pretty insane at the moment. Have a compelling, accomplishments-oriented resume. A few months ago when we were at 3% unemployment, people could get away with having a resume that wasn't as powerful. You need it now. You need to make sure you invest time in the resume. When unemployment's going to skyrocket up to about 12, 14% is my understanding, you've got to make sure that you've got things on there that are going to really sell you. Because the way that an employer views it is, if they see accomplishments on your resume, it answers the question for them, what can they do for me? Follow the company's application process. This is not the time to freelance, okay? The idea being that, you're going to pull all sorts of corporate strings and, try to play games and, play goofy games. I mean, look, there's a lot of people who do very strange things. If the company's telling you to make sure to apply online, this is the time to do it. You can be creative and you can follow up afterwards, but make sure you follow their process. And then use email and LinkedIn to follow up within socially acceptable limits. Meaning, somebody who's working from home and dealing with their 2 kids, being home tutored while they're dealing with, taking care of everything else and, an extended workday is not going to have much patience for the weekly follow-up from a candidate. I'm sorry, they're not. So you need to really calibrate to that. And then for some roles, it is customary to drop off resumes in person. Some companies do ask that. Right now, don't do it, okay? All online. This is how you submit. Call first if you have a question, and then prepare to shift to the video interviews. So that's it for me. Thank you, Connie. I hope I didn't go over.
No, you're just fine, Scott. And wow, what a wealth of information from everybody. Rick, both Ricks, Scott. I mean, honestly, I was sitting here thinking, like, what follow-on do we need to have? We'll have to talk about that. But man, it was really, in addition to being very informative, it was very motivating too, because it gave me some ideas. I was sitting here writing these things down. So, you see Scott's email there, so send him an email if you have a question. I think we have Rick's as well somewhere in here. And we're going to be posting the presentation online, and as well as a recording. So reach out to folks. We don't have any time for questions, but great. Listen, keep looking for additional webinars on these topics. We're going to expand on some. So great. Awesome job, folks. I mean, really, honestly, I learned so much. Yes, Rick, sorry.
So just to make sure, if you're trying to get your PDUs, please click on the link so that you can get to the site. You'll also have in that site every presenter and their LinkedIn connection. So if you want to get to know them and you want to reach out to them, we're giving you that opportunity on that page. Also keep in mind, I would love to try to end this I would love for you guys to turn on your video and maybe take a picture so that we can actually have this posted in the PMI. So everyone, please turn on your camera. I'm gonna take pictures of several of the screens, but we gotta do something that we're bringing us together. So maybe a heart or something that brings back, hey, this is all unity, we're all coming together. Can everybody do any kind of gesture? So remember, I have multiple slides, so I have to take a picture several times, okay? So I'm gonna take the first one, and this is the first 40 something, 50, whatever this count is. So, okay, I don't see everyone. There's some hearts. I love it. All right. So this is the first round of pictures. Please do not move. I'm going to go to the next slide. Hold on. Anna, nice seeing you. Here's the next group. Nice. Put on your cameras. Put on your cameras. You're taking too long to put it. I'm going to go to the next one now. Oh, some people are appearing. I'm going to have to take it again because some people are turning on their cameras now. Keep putting it on. Ready? Okay, don't stop. Okay, the last group here doesn't have too much of the cameras on. I'm hoping that they do later. Wow, this is a large group here. Okay, I'm almost done.
7 pages.
Oh my God, yes, too many pages. All right, so I got the camera. Connie, how do you want to end it?
Well, thank you to everyone. This was awesome. That's why we do it. I mean, it's great. I could sit a whole nother hour. I mean, really. It was just that motivating and inspiring. I'm really, really awed right now, and lots of great ideas. And thank you very much to our presenters, Claudia, Rick, and Scott, and Rick,
Regina,
Regera,
of
and
course,
Regina,
Connie.
and myself.
And thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you, Connie.
Thanks, guys.
Love
It
you,
was great.
Connie.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, we'll get the recording up as soon as possible, Rick. You'll get that link.
Have a great
Absolutely.
weekend.
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Be safe.
Bye now.
Have a great evening.
Nice seeing you guys. Anna,
Thank
looks
you.
great.
Oh, come here. Come here.
Good job, guys. Thank
Oh.
you for joining.
There he is.
Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, she's bringing the dog in the screen now, guys. You better hang up quick.
This is the one. Did you hear the
Oh, look
noise?
at
All the noise going on.
We should have all brought our pets. Hey,
Not real dainty. He
Patricia,
doesn't
how you
like
doing,
to be
Patricia?
held.
It's like a countdown.
oh my
Got the
God,
greatest
it is.
pet.
Everybody's going down.
Okay. All right. That's it. I'm going to go get Yoda. That's it.
Marcelo, nice
Yeah,
seeing you,
hang on.
Marcelo. Oh my God. Everyone, bring your pets. Bring your pets.
Yeah, we should do a thing. Bring your pet. Take a picture with the pets. That's an idea.
I've got a bird out there that's hatched.
No, not going to happen. Yoda's eating and we don't interrupt Yoda.
Oh, how sweet. That's how we should have taken the picture. Next time, Connie,
Yeah.
everybody brings their pet.
Yeah.
Maybe bring your pet to PMI event. Hey, we can do that. Great
Yeah.
job, Patricia.
Oh, look at that, Michelle.
Oh, Michelle.
What
Oh,
a
my God,
cutie.
everybody's freaking their
Oh,
dogs.
Michelle. Awesome.
God.
Look at that. What a cutie.
Scott, I know you're wearing shorts underneath there, Scott. Okay, I know you're leaving, but I know you're wearing shorts underneath there.
Huh.
All right.
Great
Come here,
job.
buddy. Come here. Come here. Come here.
Oh my God.
This was
Come here.
awesome.
Yeah.
This was
Oh,
good.
oh,
Oh
look,
my
is that
God.
Yoda?
Marcelo.
Oh my God, Marcelo.
cutie.
This is
Ay,
Yoda.
Dios mío. Look at that. Ah.
Goodness.
God, Michelle.
This is Yoda.
Hi,
Beautiful.
guys.
Yoda.
All right. Come here.
Oh,
Come here.
Monique, what a beautiful
Come here. Come
lady.
here.
Oh, they're all cuties. Where's
Yeah.
Kim?
Oh
I'll have
my
another one.
God.
Do that one
Monique, that
next.
looks beautiful.
Next time.
Say hi, Rox.
Awesome.
Say hi.
Hey,
Hey, they're part of the family. Where's Gizmo?
awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
All right.
Michelle.
Have a good evening,
Have
everybody.
a good one.
Bye.
I have another one
Here
here.
go.
Good job, guys.
Gizmo.
Oh
Good
my
job.
God. How many
Good job.
dogs do you have?
He's 17 though, and he's
my
really, he can't
goodness.
move around a lot, but he's my baby. Yeah, he's my baby.
Oh, oh
Awesome.
my God. That is beautiful, guys.
All
Wow.
right,
Nobody
guys,
wants.
have a great
Hey, where's the happy hour, Regina? Where's the happy hour, Regina?
Meet the
Why-
one.
This is the pet hour. It's the
This is
pet
the pet hour.
Yeah.
I've got a bird outside my window, Regina. I'm gonna go and bring it.
I gotta go, guys. I got a pole in the water waiting with my name on it. So
Bye. Bye.
have a
Bye,
good evening,
bye,
everybody.
Thank you, Claudia. You guys
Bye.
all did
Great
an
job,
excellent
Claudia.
job.
Great
job,
job,
Did an
everybody.
excellent job.
Great job.
Bye.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Andrew,
Thank you.
great job. Sonia. Terry, how you doing?
Good night.
Let's see who's the last one, Regina. Let's be the last one on the line. Let's see who can.
I'm hungry.
Maybe we should give a free class, Regina, to the person that's the last one in the session. How about that?
Look, Hans is on the line.
Oh my goodness, they're still there. I think some people left, and they're probably not even there. So, Sonia, how you doing?
Hi, Andrew.